Hey everyone, welcome to Happy Hour. And today we're going to be talking about the newest changes in SEO. Now, in the past, we've talked about our acronym karate, so we have a poster up here. And we wanted to talk about the changes of SEO based on karate. So, I have my business partner here, Rachit, and he's going to talk about the cool changes that you need to know about for SEO. So, let's start off with keywords.
Right.
So what do we need to know about that?
So keywords is the first stage of any SEO project. Now I think there's two major changes happening in 2013. One is normally people would leave the really long tail keywords for AdWords. But lately we've seen that AdWords is not performing so well for those less specific keywords. The quality scores going down, the click rates are not very high. Which means that we need to use SEO to target those keywords. Which means that our keyword lists are essentially quadrupling. People who used to target 10, 15 keywords now need to go after 50 keywords. So the first change is we need to expand our keyword list massively, go after a lot of long keywords. The second change is that because of Panda, all the people that had been SEOing their site for the last 5 years, their ranks are coming back now. They're coming back to normal, which means that really broad keywords where there were established players ranking really well, we can all now play in that field. Because Panda's kind of leveled the playing field a bit.
So when you're saying Panda, you're not talking about a bear, right?
No. I'm talking about the 2011 Panda update of Google that kind of demoted the press release and article and news sort of links. Which means that we can start going back after the really competitive keywords again. So two changes, really competitive keywords back in play, and we need to massively expand the long tail keywords.
So when you're saying by massively expand, does that mean there's a lot more work to do in SEO? I mean, that seems like quite a big task to massively expand it.
Well, the work for the less competitive keywords isn't so bad. It's essentially creating some interesting content and that's it.
Okay.
We don't need to go and do a lot of link building for those long tail keywords. So it's not that much more work. Quadrupling keywords is maybe double the work. It's not quadrupling the work.
Okay, cool. Next thing is architecture. So how do we look at architecture before and how has it changed?
So architecture before was mostly something attributed to IA or information architecture in website development. I think at the core is still the same. The goal is to get a really rich sitemap to get a lot of content out there. But because we're now expanding our keyword scope a lot, this changes because suddenly we need a site that's so much bigger to accommodate all those keywords. So that means we got to make sure of the technical tasks, the Google Webmaster Tools, the XML sitemaps, all that stuff is in tip-top shape. And then we got to go out and figure out how do we accommodate for content for all these keywords, which means that we have to monitor the competition very closely. For every keyword that we want to rank for, we need to make sure we know who else is ranking for it, what's the content out there, and then our content is a lot more interesting. So it's not so much about what we want to shout out about in our sitemap. It's about what for every keyword the competition says and making sure that we have content that's better than them.
Yeah. So it's not just blind creation of content, you can't churn out anything anymore. You need to see what's really interesting out there and be more aware of what your competitors are doing. Because even if you churn out content, if it's not that interesting compared to your competitors, then, you're just finding blanks, Okay, so we are going to move on to relevant content. So what do we need to know there?
So in the past, relevant content was all about making sure the title tags, the description tags, the headlines, all that stuff was keyword rich. Now that's kind of passé now. Today content is just a tool to get links and get authority and get social likes. So in 2013, relevant content is going to be all about creating what's called link bait, which is content that people tend to like, they tend to click, they tend to share. So that means stuff like your data, your charts, your infographics.
I like clicking on a lot of the celebrity news and controversial stuff. Yeah, the headlines are always the ones that catch my attention.
Right, so it's the sensational tabloid type headlines and that kind of news updates. That's very topical, in the moment kind of content that gets a lot of clicks. Stuff like lists, like top 10 lists, that's evergreen. People tend to like that a lot.
What about for the serious business who wants to rank better? I mean, are they really going to make top 10 lists? It seems maybe too casual for them. Yeah,
maybe a bit gimmicky. So for them, I think a good strategy would be tutorials and guides. Whatever their domain of expertise is, they can always talk about that. As well as providing a viewpoint on news happenings. So if there's a change in their industry,
Right.
if they comment on it, that's their chance to get into Google News. That's their chance to get a lot of social traffic coming in that way. So, you can always put a slightly more sensational, interesting spin even on boring content for B2B folks.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on to authority. So in the past, authority, I mean, we talked about linking between different sites. So what's changed there?
So even though the best practices in authority used to be about getting links from high quality sites, what really worked used to be article submissions, directory submissions, just pushing the word out there a lot. That stuff is obviously being demoted down. Press releases don't count for so much, articles don't count for that much. One thing that hasn't been demoted too much is blogging. So blogging is still as important as ever. That ties in very well with the link bait argument. So when we have interesting link, that should go out on our own blog. But I think the big change in 2013 is going to be all this social media stuff. So tying social into search, which means your assets set up, your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google Plus accounts, having them set up, having them relevant, and then posting interesting content that might get shared and pushed out again and again. So it's all about, I think, getting the likes, getting the tweets, getting the plus ones, and getting the shares.
I think a lot of businesses would be wondering, what if I just share on Facebook or Twitter and YouTube? Is that going to help my SEO rankings?
Yeah, it is. Facebook doesn't directly help because they don't talk to each other. But getting a Facebook like is a good sign that people might tweet about it, that they might plus one it, or they might mention it somewhere in an offline link. So anyway, getting that like should be the critical strategy, and then everything else will follow around that.
Okay, cool. And 2 more to go. Trouble signs.
So earlier trouble signs used to be all the little technical problems like frames and flash and all of that stuff. Google's gotten pretty good at that, and site developers have moved off those old technologies. So in 2013, the technical stuff is going to be about standing out on the search engine result page, which means that first of all, recognizing that it's not 10 text links anymore. It's 5 text links, and it's a couple of videos and a couple of news articles and photos and all this kind of rich stuff. So anywhere possible, figuring out if we can get into a map listing, if we can get a video listing or result in there, if we can get photos in there, that's a way to get traffic, that's a way to stand out from that image. And if we are in the text results, that means paying extra attention to our title, our description, linking every article to a Google Plus author or publisher that helps put that little face or that photo next to that article. And then using these things called rich snippets or rich metadata. So if you have a restaurant, that means putting the ratings out there. And there's richsnippets.org is I think a site that has a lot of information about this. So technically putting more metadata in there so that Google has a chance to make the results stand out a bit. Yeah,
so I think where Rachit's coming from is, you're going to see a lot of text links there, and even ranking number 1, number 2 might not be enough because there are going to be people with, you might notice they might have faces on there, or they might have little rating stars. So that, even those small changes is going to help a lot, even if you're not ranked number 1 or number 2. Okay. Last one is experience. So how is experience evolving for SEO?
So in the past, we've advocated that experience was about bounce rate and time on site. Unfortunately, those are kind of losing battles. Google recognizes that as people get more on mobile and they have a few smaller attention span, that stuff will reduce. So that's not something we can fight. What we can do with the experience is make sure that we are getting people to engage more, which means that instead of using them to stay on site longer, we should use them to stay on our social sites a bit longer. So if we can get them to subscribe to our Facebook, our Twitter, or YouTube, that means they'll come back, they'll consume more content, and they'll probably provide links back from all of those places. So I think laying out the goal in terms of how do we get these people to either convert on site or do a social conversion, which has become a subscriber to one of our social networks, that's the experience target for 2013.
Okay. Yeah, I know on Google Analytics we can track if someone has gone to a social network and come back and done a conversion. So we can kind of see the effectiveness of that. So what you're saying is, the entire experience is not just limited to your site and reading the blogs. It's that whole ecosystem, going to the social network, going back, maybe going to another social network and then going back.
Right. And that's the challenge with analytics and reporting this year too.
Right.
It's not about the site anymore, so how do you take all of that stuff into account? But those are some of the big changes in SEO that we absolutely must take care of.
Cool. Yeah, so from what I gather, as an SEO professional, we need to be more diverse in our tools that we're using. The strategies of the past, just doing article submission, just working with text, that's not good enough anymore. We need to diversify. We need to use pictures, different meta tags. The world is evolving, so we got to keep up with them and provide a more rich experience.
And so for those of you who are interested in more, we have workshops coming up. Head down to happymarketer.com and you'll see when the next workshop is.
Cool. That was great. So that concludes Happy Hour. See ya next time.